it in the air right now. It's all around, I see it everywhere. It's the power, yeah, God's power. It's the power to move any star. It's the power to heal your broken heart. It's the power, yeah, God's power. So don't hold back, no, don't hold still. 'Cause God is here and He is real. Take 4 steps to the left, to the left. 1, 2, 3, 4. Turn it around and move to the right. 1, 2, 3. Now take tiny little jumps forward to the front. 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 jumps back, but you better look back. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now freeze. And everybody clap your hands. Now stop. I feel it in the air right now. It's all around, I see it everywhere. It's the power, yeah, God's power. It's the power to move any star. It's the power to heal your broken heart. It's the power, yeah, God's power. So don't hold back, no, don't hold still. God is here and He is real. Take 4 steps to the left, to the left. 1, 2, 3, 4. Turn it around and move to the right. 1, 2, 3. Now take tiny little jumps forward to the front. 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 jumps back, but you better look back. Let's do it all again right now. Take 4 steps to the left, to the left. 1, 2, 3, 4. Turn it around and move to the right. 1, 2, 3. Now take tiny little jumps forward to the front. 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 jumps back, but you better look back. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now freeze. And everybody clap your hands. Now stop. You're powerful. You're unshakable. You're powerful. You're unshakable. You shake me, you break me, you make me whole again. Your nature, unchanging, all fails, but you remain. You're powerful. You're unshakable. You're powerful. You're unshakable. You shake me, you break me, you make me whole again. Your nature, unchanging, all fails, but you remain. You're powerful. You're unshakable. You're powerful. You're unshakable. You're powerful. You're powerful. You're powerful. You're powerful.
Good morning, Victory Kids Quest. Are you guys enjoying these nice, cool mornings and the cool evenings, man? I am. It's starting to feel a little bit like fall. What about those songs of God's power? I love those songs reminding us of God's power and how strong He is. The power He has to love us, to forgive us, to rescue and save us, right? We've been talking a lot about God's power this year. A couple of weeks ago, we talked about Zacchaeus because we started a new series. Remember that? Of how God has power to change people's lives and power to use them. Well, this week we're going to talk about another Bible character, but before that, I have a couple cool announcements for you. Next week, I want you guys to tune into our video because you're going to have the opportunity to see Mr. Nico come and help give the lesson. So I know some of you guys have missed some of our workers. So like I said, next week, Mr. Nico is going to come and visit with you guys. Also, exciting thing, we've been meeting outside of Victory on the front lawn for a couple of our services where we had church outside. Last week we got to meet in the park. That was totally awesome. Like, I totally loved that. Well, in a few weeks, starting in November, you guys, we're going to get the opportunity to be able to start meeting back together with our families at church. And so look forward to that. We're going to start doing that the first Sunday of November. So I know your parents have seen the announcements or read the emails, but I want you guys to know and encourage your family to bring you starting the first Sunday in November so we can gather back together and see each other. Super excited. Our last announcement, you guys hold on for this one because you're gonna love this. A lot of things have changed with COVID. Even maybe some of the holiday things like Halloween or October Blast have changed, but we want to offer you guys a fun trunk or treat time. So in a couple of weeks on a Sunday, October 25th, we're going to have a drive-through trunk or treat. You guys can come dressed in a costume if you want. You're going to get to go from car to trunk or treat. We're going to have a little connection station where you can actually park your car and come out and talk with your teachers, talk with your other friends. You can grab a snack. And we also have a special spot set up. It's on a big, beautiful wooden bench, all decorated for fall, so you and your family can take a photo. We'll have Miss Natasha working there to help take a photo of your family. So October 25th. It's from 4 to 5 p.m. So you can drive through, go home, eat dinner, and have a good rest of your evening. So we're excited. In a couple of weeks, we'll see you there. Okay, friends, so like I said, 2 weeks ago we started a new series on how God changed people's life in the Bible. We learned that God can use anyone. And the first person we talked about was Zacchaeus. And when I was thinking about it this past week of how Zacchaeus, he made his riches and he became rich because he went around stealing from other people, right? He took their money, he took their treasure. And that got me thinking about this. About pirates, right? And that's what pirates do. They come out of nowhere, right? Walking or on their boats or on their ships, and they come out of nowhere and they come to take your treasure, right? And that's, whoa, dude, what was that? Well, I guess that's exactly what I'm talking about, right? Pirates would come out of nowhere and they would go and they would steal everyone's treasure. The things that they had worked hard to earn, right? Gold coins, money, gems, even fancy clothing, fancy cups, goblets, plates, whatever they could get their hands on. And exactly what just happened to me, right? That's what happened to other people. And that got me thinking about, that is exactly how Zacchaeus was. He would travel around town to town, there outside of Jericho and in the city of Jericho, house to house, family to family, and he would steal their treasure, even if they had just a tiny bit. But what an amazing story of how God redeemed him, how God used him. Jesus forgave him. Jesus forgave all of Zacchaeus' family. And look at what happened to Zacchaeus. Do you guys remember? How did he show everyone there in the city of Jericho that he had changed? Do you guys remember? Tell me if you remember. That's right. He went out and he told everyone what Jesus had done. And then he went out and he paid everybody back 3 or 4 times as much as he had stolen. He truly wanted to show people that he had changed. Well, the second person that we're going to look at in the Bible of how God changed his life and used him in a mighty way, I know you guys will probably be able to guess who I'm going to talk about because we've heard about him before in Kids Quest, but his life started out a little rough. He started out having to go take a ride down the river in a basket. Who would that be? I know some of you guys called it out to me. Moses, right? We're going to talk about how God changed Moses' life and how he used Moses for a great, great, great purpose. And like we remember, Moses started out as a little kid in a basket. And do you remember how he became a little baby in a basket? It was because of the evil Pharaoh, the king of Egypt, making the law that all the baby boys had to be killed. right? He did not want any more of the Jewish baby boys growing up. He thought they were overtaking too much of the land, and he did not want that to happen. And so was actually scared too that the people were becoming too powerful and they might overtake him and his kingdom of Egypt. And so Moses' mom wanted to protect him. So we know what she did. She put him in a basket and she sent him down the river, right? So that he would be safe. Well, he didn't have to go very far down the river, because you guys remember the story of how a princess found him. And in fact, it was the Pharaoh, right? The king of Egypt. It was his daughter that found baby Moses and rescued him. And she raised him as her own. So Moses was adopted. As Moses grew up, he learned that he was Jewish. He understood that he was a Jewish person that had been adopted by the Egyptian princess. And you know, there was one thing that really hurt Moses' heart, was when he would see his own people, the Jewish people, being beaten and mistreated by some of the workers, right, of the Pharaoh. They were making them to be slaves, to build the buildings, to build the pyramids, and to just work hard all day. And you know, one day Moses had had enough. And you guys, he made a huge mistake, because he got so mad at one of those taskmasters for beating a Hebrew. He got so angry, so mad at it, that he pushed this man down, and the man died. Whether Moses meant to or not, he killed a man. And Moses realized the very next day that some people had seen it happened, and they're talking to Moses about it. And this scared him, and he ran away because he was scared that Pharaoh would kill him for killing one of his own people. So Moses runs away, and he runs to a new land, Midian. And there he meets a man named Jethro. And Jethro has a large family, lots of land, lots of animals, and he had a beautiful daughter. And Moses falls in love with this beautiful daughter, and he marries Jethro's daughter. Now Moses lives in this land all of these years. He has stayed away from Egypt because, again, he's scared, he's frightened that the Pharaoh would have him killed for what he had done. One day Moses is out on the land. He's outside. It's a beautiful, clear day. He's watching some of the sheep, and all of a sudden he hears a sound, and he looks, and there's a little bush there that's on fire. Now, you guys have seen things on fire. You know what happens when fire comes. It burns whatever is on fire. But he was amazed because this bush was not burning away. It had fire all over it, but it wasn't withering or burning away. And then he heard a loud voice, and God was talking to Moses. And God tells Moses, Moses, I'm here. Take off your sandals. Take off your shoes. You're on holy ground. I am going to use you to do a great and mighty and powerful thing. You are going to lead your people, the Jewish people, to safety. They're no longer going to be slaves in Egypt for Pharaoh. You're going to go back to Egypt, and you're going to free them. Well, Moses said, hold on, God, are you kidding me? This is impossible. One reason, you guys, is because of this. Moses didn't just hide out in Midian for a year or 2 or 10 or 20. Moses was 80 years old at this time. He was like a upper older grandpa, right? 80 years old. And Moses said, you can't use me. I'm an old man, right? And you can't use me. You can't send me back to Egypt. Don't you remember what I did? I killed an Egyptian man for beating a Hebrew slave. And God reminded Moses, I know what you did. You also know that I forgave you. You see, Moses had gone to God, and he had asked for God to forgive him for the sin that he had committed. And God didn't give up on Moses. God didn't turn away from Moses. God didn't stop loving Moses, right? God can use anything. God can use us when we sin and we make mistakes. God can use us as a young person or an older person like Moses. Well, then Moses, he started giving other excuses. But God, I don't speak well. They won't be able to understand what I'm trying to do. And then he told God, and God, honestly, I'm scared. I'm scared to go back to Egypt because I know Pharaoh is still alive and he'll send his men after me to kill me. But God said, no, don't you know who I am? I am who I am. And if I have called you, then I'm going to give you power. Oh, I love that. And I'm going to give you strength, and I'm going to give you all the help you need to do what I want you to do. And listen to this, guys, my favorite part. God tells Moses, I'm going to go before you, and I'm going to already be there and everything will be okay. Well, Moses is still kind of arguing with God. I don't think you can use me. I don't think it will work. And God says, let me show you some signs, some wonders, and some miracles that I'm going to show to the people there so that when you arrive, they are going to know without a doubt that I sent you. And he tells Moses, you're using your walking stick today as you're outside watching the sheep. Why don't you take that walking stick and drop it down on the ground and see what happens? So Moses did. Let's do that and see what happens. And when Moses goes to reach for it, he realized he was holding a snake. And God says, take it by the tail, hang it upside down, and drop it back on the ground again. Let's see what happens. When Moses did that, his walking stick turned right back into his walking stick. Moses was like, wow, that's pretty cool. Okay, I can kind of see how that would get the people's attention. And God said, well, let me show you something else I can do. Why don't you take this water that you have and why don't you dip your finger into it and I'll show you how I can turn water into blood. Wow. Now this really got Moses' attention and he thought, okay, I can see that if you go before me and you show these signs and wonders and miracles to the people, that maybe they will listen to me. But he was still a little worried to go. And so you know what God said finally to Moses? Moses, I'm going to give you something else. I'm going to give you a helper. I'm going to give you one of the best helpers I could give you, and it's your big brother, Aaron. I'm going to send him with you, and you are going to go and do great and mighty things. And you guys, I know you know the story, right? We see Moses and Aaron traveling back into Egypt, and after a while of a lot of bad things that happened, God sending locusts and flies and boils upon the Egyptian people and the Pharaoh, and they turned the river into blood, and some animals had to die, and big hailstones came. We call those things the 10 plagues, the 10 judgments that came upon Egypt. Finally, with Moses leading the people, the Pharaoh lets his people go. He lets the Jewish Hebrew people go, right? And they will no longer be slaves. They'll have freedom. And God's going to use Moses to get them ready to be moving into a new land, a land filled with blessings and with good land and milk and honey and good water sources where they'll be able to live for generations, right? You guys, from our story today, remember, God has the power to change our life. He took Moses, who started out kind of a rough life and needing to leave his family, being adopted. He killed a man. He had to flee and live all of those years away from his family, from his friends. God called him at 80 years old. God can use you right now as a young person. God can use us as a middle-aged person like me, or God can use us as an older man like Moses. Moses couldn't speak well. He was scared. He was frightened. He had all this list of excuses, right? A huge list, longer than your Christmas list, of why God couldn't use him. But God kept encouraging, and God didn't give up, and God used Moses in a great and a mighty way. Next week, we're going to look at a character from the New Testament as Mr. Nico comes and helps you with your lesson next week. And we're going to see how God changed his life in a mighty, mighty way. And he goes from a person who murdered Christians to becoming a Christian. I can't wait. It's one of my favorite stories in the New Testament. You guys, I love you so much. I hope you have a great week at school. I'm excited that I'll get to see you in a couple weeks for our activities. And stay tuned for a fun 3-minute retelling of our story today. Bye, guys.
God's story, Moses. So part of God's story is about a guy named Moses, and it begins like this. When Moses was born, God's special family, the Israelites, were living in Egypt as slaves. But there were so many Israelites that Pharaoh, Egypt's ruler, was afraid they might attack him. So he ordered that they work extra hard and made a law that all new baby boys had to be killed. Well, baby Moses' mom didn't want him to die, so she came up with a plan. She put him in a waterproof basket and hid it in the Nile River. Before long, Pharaoh's daughter, the princess, showed up. She found the basket and realized Moses was one of the babies her dad was trying to kill. But instead of hurting Moses, she adopted him. He grew up in the palace like a prince. Now Moses should have felt really special and loved, but he felt bad that his people were slaves while he lived in the palace. So he ran away and tried to help them. Problem is, they didn't want a prince around. Moses didn't feel like he belonged anywhere, so he ran away again. This time, he went to a place called Midian. There, he married a lady named Zipporah and worked for her dad, Jethro. One day, he was taking care of Jethro's sheep when he saw a bush on fire. As Moses looked more closely, the inside of the bush called out, "Moses! Moses!" Kids, would you answer a burning bush that yells your name? Well, Moses did. He said, "Here I am." Then the bush introduced itself. It was God appearing as fire. And God told Moses that he could see how his family was suffering as slaves. Since God loves his family, he wanted to rescue them through Moses. Now you'd think Moses would be excited since he had wanted to help his people, but he wasn't. He didn't think he was special enough to get a job from God. He said, "Why me?" God reminded him, "I'll be with you." He even told Moses exactly what to say to the Egyptians. But Moses didn't think anyone would believe that God had appeared to a regular guy like him, a guy who didn't even belong anywhere. So God gave Moses 3 miracles to prove that God was with him. First, God let Moses turn his staff into a snake and back. Next, Moses put his hand in his cloak. It came out with leprosy. Then he did it again to cure it. Finally, God showed Moses how to turn water into blood. But even after God showed him all this, Moses was still afraid that nobody would listen to him. "I don't talk well," he said. "I stutter and stammer." Then God asked Moses, "Who makes a man able to talk? God is the one who makes us." And he wanted Moses to remember that and trust him. But Moses begged, "Please, send anybody else." Fortunately, God loves us even when we're afraid to trust him and we don't realize how special we are to him. He let Moses bring his brother Aaron along to do the talking. After that, Moses finally realized he belonged in God's family. He didn't have to run away anymore, so he obeyed God and followed him. He took his wife and sons to Egypt to tell the Israelites that God was going to rescue them. The Israelites believed that God was with Moses, and they were so excited to be rescued that they worshiped God right away. And that's the story of Moses. So in case you missed it, here's the quick version. God's family lived in Egypt. They were slaves. Pharaoh said baby boys must die. Moses' mom had a plan. Moses was adopted. He ran away. Moses returned to his people. He ran away. God appeared as fire. Moses argued with God. Finally, Moses obeyed. He knew he belonged in God's family. And that's a part of God's story.